Welcome to Nintendo Voice Chat for the week of March 31st, 2016. This is the Spanish edition of Nintendo Voice Chat. And this week we have a special show for you, but I am Jose Otero. This is Brian Altano to my left. This is Per Schneider to my right. You're right that sometimes I stumble on intros. I haven't stumbled on intros in a while.
So I think you get really excited at the start of the show. And then
I try to get the energy level up in here because sometimes you guys look miserable.
What? I'll get the energy level. You want me to get the energy level up? I can do that. I can definitely do that.
Tone it down, big boy.
See, that's the problem. I get it up in there and you're like,
well,
yes, tone it down.
We've got a special episode for you today. In the second half of the show, we have Jools Watsham joining us from Renegade Kidd. He's going to be talking about Mutant Mudds Mutant Mudds Super Challenge. He's going to be talking about some of the games in their career and in their portfolio. Really good stuff. Make sure you stick around for that. And if you want to support the show, believe it or not, there is a little device you probably carry with you everywhere. It's called an iOS or an Android phone. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but we have an app on that platform. And if you're a Prime subscriber, you get an ad-free IGN on mobile, which is a good thing. So if you want to help support the show, by all means, please check the apps out. We put a lot of effort into working on them. We're actually working on some really cool revisions behind the scenes for them, and we could definitely use your support, as always.
Awesome.
So let's kick things off with this week. Nintendo took a big step, in my opinion, a bigger step than they did 2 weeks ago, in terms of Miitomo launched worldwide. Now, this is a big deal because this is part of what the company has been talking about as being their bid to be an entertainment company, not just be a game maker anymore. This is part of that plan. And I feel like the worldwide launch of Miitomo and the new rewards program, My Nintendo, were a big part of this. So let's talk about it. You guys have now played Miitomo. I'm not the only guy in the room.
I'm playing it right now, actually.
You're not playing Miitomo. You're playing Add More Friends.
I'm playing Add More Friends. I'm going through my friend list. And I know I'm ahead of Brian when it comes to adding friends here for some odd reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm just sitting here. There's no bulk accept friends feature. You have to click on each one. And I made the mistake of linking my account to my Facebook and my Twitter.
Me too.
And so it's been like ding, 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 which is awesome. Thank you for sending your friend requests. But clearly the app is not designed for that kind of edge case.
Neither is Facebook and neither is Twitter. I mean, you are accepting on a one-on-one basis.
Twitter, anyone can follow you, right?
Yeah.
It's not a mutual
This is
system
designed
like
around
this.
a mutual thing, though.
This is a friend system.
They kind of want you to know who's on the other end.
Yeah, and that's completely understandable. But yeah, the connection to those social networks that have been around for many years suddenly opens this up to a big audience.
Well, and in some ways in a bad way because of what happened to Brian.
Well, I was actually going to say, I think it's a little interesting that they wouldn't just, so the first thing I did this morning was I tweeted out the QR code from my character. And immediately everyone told me, that's not how you add friends. Yep. And I was like, oh.
No, it's just how you share your me.
Here we go again. So I found out that's just how you share the outfit you're wearing, which can also make it like a sort of alternate character skin in somebody's game. It didn't let me do that immediately.
It can wear the Brian
Apparently,
suit?
I had my me not on sharing privileges, so I had to go into my Wii U and change those settings.
Same here.
Those didn't sync. So I just redesigned my me because I'm like, I want to jump in this thing and we'll be able to talk about it in the show today. I'm not going to sit around and wait for all their servers to connect. I have no idea how their iPhone connects to their 3DS or connects to their Wii U.
You have to restart the app in order for the settings that you changed on your me to take effect.
God,
I had that issue too.
It's a good note, actually.
So you guys did it that way because the first time I used this app, I used the generator itself and then just made tweaks. And then the second time, when I used the US version this morning, I used my US account with it because I'd rather put those rewards towards US goods instead of the Japanese ones. I'm just going to get to the
I did the same thing.
To the quick point, though, is that I used a QR code from the Me application on 3DS, and I have sharing on. So when you make a me, you are asked, do you want to share this along with when you put your name, when you put your birthday, when you want to put your creator.
But it doesn't instantly update.
Touch.
So I changed that on the 3DS, and then I generated a QR code, and then it worked after we restarted the app.
Yep.
So just make sure you do that if you want it easier.
That's actually a good cheat code there. We should throw that in the IGN wikis for this thing.
They did.
Cool.
And Nintendo, if you're listening, you do need to make this a little easier.
Yeah.
I feel like the fact that we have to give a bigger explanation for someone who's an existing customer, that can be a bit of a burden, right? I mean, this is not news to you.
I also think people don't know the difference between a Nintendo account and a Nintendo Network ID.
Because they're different things.
They're different things, but you, like, as a normal consumer, you're like, oh, I have a Nintendo ID, let me type it in, and it goes like, nope, You're like, oh, there's a separate option for a Nintendo Network ID.
See, for me, that was clear.
No.
I'm surprised it wasn't clear for
maybe,
you. Yeah.
Maybe you use the same login and passwords. I don't. So I was trying to log in with a 1, and then I'm like, oh, wait, no, these are different.
No, I didn't use the same. I just saw the buttons underneath, and it had, Twitter, Facebook, Google+. I'm like, well, I have a Nintendo Network ID. Let me just use that instead.
I was reading.
You didn't see Nintendo account, though?
People were actually
people
were actually running into some trouble this morning because even though we were able to secure our whichever one it was a month ago,
Nintendo account, your
Nintendo account. So say I picked mine was Agent Bizzle. When it prompts you to start Miitomo, you can put in a name, and if you put in Agent Bizzle, people were actually, or I hypothetically would have been locked out of my own account on my 3DS or my Wii U. And Andrew Goldfarb, who's our news editor, was telling me that he was getting a bunch of reports on this, and people were running into this issue, that even though they had a name picked out, in Miitomo, picking a name actually blocked out the person who had that name originally, which means they had to go in and retrieve their account information and go back in, which is a major, major problem.
Yeah.
One of the other things I thought was very fascinating was that by tweeting those images out, here's my QR code, people couldn't add me. They could only add me if we were following each other on Twitter, or in some cases if we had a mutual follow, which in our case was IGN, who has millions of followers. So that immediately opens up those floodgates. The other option to do that is that you can add somebody through Facebook, meaning that you have to be friends with them on Facebook. So Nintendo, in a way of being like, we need to keep children safe from strangers on the internet, are vicariously inviting children to befriend other people on Facebook to trade their Miitomo information, which is now giving those people more access to their personal lives than ever before.
Wow.
Because I noticed people in the NVC Facebook group were like, oh, let's just add each other as friends on Facebook. Now, that all of a sudden means that I have to introduce you into my entire personal life, which I don't really care. I invite fans and friends on Facebook.
Yeah.
But for the average kid, for someone like Jose or the average kid.
See, I don't see it. I don't know if I see the issue with this.
Really?
You're having. Yeah.
You don't see the issue with
I'm not entirely sure. I mean,
two people becoming Facebook friends?
I think a parent is involved in part of this, and I don't know how that's Nintendo's fault.
I mean, I wouldn't put so much faith in the parent and understanding.
I mean, but that's the job.
But can you add someone who's a friend of a friend, for example?
Over Facebook?
Yeah.
No.
Only through
the
Twitter with
friends
the followers.
thing that I've seen is only through Twitter. I have not seen that tied to a Facebook icon. I see your point that there are certain sort of bottlenecks here that these sort of requests are coming through. But I think at the end of the day, Nintendo just didn't want to facilitate those friendships unless they were in person. I mean, that's just kind of how this has always been.
Sure, but what I'm saying is that they're in a way facilitating those friendships more than ever. Because back in the day when you used to trade 7-digit codes or friendship bracelets or whatever it was,
do you see this or am I not seeing it? Like, I'm not sure.
Where are you? I think what you're worried about though is. I mean, this app was designed for true friendship, right? Like, the people you all are already friends with. And so I don't think that many kids will run into the issue where they're trying to add someone who's not already in their circle.
But I mean, that's inherently not how the internet works, though. Because like I'm saying, in the NVC Facebook group today, people were like, I want to add you, but I can't. I'll add you as a friend now. And by adding as a friend, now I know your hometown, your job, your relationship
there are privacy settings on Facebook, though. You're assuming that like most people don't use that. For example, like I use that. Before I used to have things like my phone number or where I lived when you were my friend. And then through privacy settings and the fact that I just, I got trust issues, I closed those doors.
Sure. Yeah. I think it's
I see what you're saying.
Very easy to deduce that information without even having to put personally, like, here's the name of my job, here's my, like, it's just, you can deduct that stuff very easily.
Think about it this way. If you're hanging out with a certain group of people on a forum, you may not be personally linked on other social networks.
Yes.
And so this app makes it very, very difficult then to connect.
Isn't that on you to be safe? No offense.
No. You can absolutely take that stance, but I think that is a good point for kind of room for improvement. Like, is there an easier way for you to connect?
I think
with
there needs to be an easier way for strangers to connect without following each other on Twitter or befriending each other on Facebook. Because right now, those are the bottlenecks to actually connect with someone on Miitomo.
There's no giving somebody your telephone number, style connection
the
is what he was
codes.
saying. So ironically, the thing we always complained about that was a pain in the butt is, a feature that would be helpful. I find this so weird
because meanwhile, it's connecting to social networks in a way that is putting you with the people who you do care about and who are part of your personal personal life. And personally, I think those are the people you should be adding.
Hold on a second, though. The fastest growing networks for younger people are Instagram and Snapchat.
That's right, and those aren't supported.
They're
here.
not supported, and so that's the point. Is there is currently no solution other than being in the same room.
Right.
This feels like a non-issue, but I'm not gonna. It feels like one, and it feels like it isn't. Like I'm not entirely sure. But regardless, for the sake of moving on, let's talk about at least using the app itself, because you didn't tell your story though. Like you ran into a big problem because
I was using it all day, and then I was getting
linked
Facebook
it to Facebook,
linked it to my Facebook, where I have a bunch of people I'm connected with, and then my Twitter, where there's a bunch more, and I got all these friend requests, and as of 3 hours ago, the friend icon part just straight up won't load. It will not load. And this is version 1.0 of the day one, so I don't know how much they stress tested.
It's actually 1.1, I think, or 1.01.
Yeah, so I don't know how much they stress tested this. It feels like this is something they would have caught in Japan first, because I can't be the first person that just got a bunch of friend requests on day one.
But you do have a lot of friends on Facebook. Yeah, you have like 5,000.
Yeah. This is the same thing some of us ran into on the PlayStation 4 when with PlayStation's friends list, the feature to accept a friend request or a real name request would just not work.
Yes.
And I heard this from everybody in the Beyond crew. It happened to me too. You just couldn't go in. And it's that edge case of, us as fans of the platforms being in the middle of it and getting a lot of friend requests.
Yeah, I mean, there's a 1,000-person friend cap in this game. So it's not like it's not like it's unusual to say, "Hey, friend me." Like if they tell you a friend cap, and I'm an obsessive sort of collector type, which most of us Nintendo fans are. I'm going to see what I can do to reach that, to connect with as many people as possible, because the game is constantly enticing you to connect with more people. It is gamifying that. Right. It gives you points. It gives you currency. It gives you things.
But it's not the same when a stranger walks in and asks you a question or gives you a response. Like earlier, Andrew was playing Miitomo Drop, which is sort of a pachinko-style game that we've talked about in this thing. And in Miitomo Drop, you drop a friend, basically, down through a machine, and they're supposed to land on a prize box and win you something. When Andrew booted it up, the person hanging from the claw, he didn't recognize. And it's like, well, who the heck is that? I was like, Andrew, who is that? He's like, I don't know. I'm just like, to me, that loses its personal layer of, it's Brian, or it's Pear, or it's Eric Sapp.
You would have hated the last 6 years of street passing, because that's exactly what that was.
I didn't consider street passing the same thing, because those people are not my friends. Those are people I pass on the street who information is basically traded within the games we play.
Yeah, but they're still showing up in your
but it's not the same.
Hats
like
and
this,
stuff
this
like
is
that.
more. I see this more as a friends thing.
Yeah,
I
agree.
see this as a every stranger or a popularity contest in some ways. And I'm not saying you're seeing it that way, but to me, that's not what I think the app is about.
Well, to me, it's a social media app, and that's ostensibly what a lot of people use social media.
It's what it goes to. No, I think that's a fair point.
It's not necessarily a popularity contest, but it is a quest to connect with as many people as possible using what you do and what you are. Like if I have a cool outfit in this game and I take a really cool photo, I want 1,000 people to see it. Because I'm bragging, I'm showing it off, in the same way like when I write a tweet or a show.
Yeah, but you could still do that. I mean, there are ways that you're sharing that on Twitter, you're sharing that on Instagram, you're sharing that on Facebook. The app has a lot of ways to share things.
I don't think that's inherently clear in the design of it, nor is it inherently clear in the tutorial. It doesn't say, hey, this is a personal situation, you should share this with the people you care about the most. It just says show off your cool stuff, we'll give you points and money and
Two friends.
Yeah, but friends is a meaningless word in 2016 on the internet.
That's a pretty meaningful word to me.
I don't think so. I mean,
wow, this is really interesting, because you two have very different stances on social media anyway, and how you use them, right?
Absolutely.
That's it's going to be interesting to see how the different types of users use this app. What I've seen from every social media app ever released is they were always designed at the beginning either for a very specific group, like think about Facebook, right?
Yeah.
Or they were launched to be something very, very broad, right? Like a MySpace or something. Yeah. And then other features found their way in where then, this became about music, or this became about something else.
Or fan
and I think
pages.
we'll see that with this too. I think the most powerful thing in this app is going to be photo sharing with teens. It's going to come to the forefront, and right now it's buried in a menu.
Yeah.
Right. It's not on the home menu as something you do. Like that whole kind of sticker posting, funny reactions, all that kind of stuff is going to come more to the forefront.
And the editor is really good for it, right? So, it does depth, it does different stamps, it does different sizes. You can flip things around. It's really, really powerful, but it is embedded somewhere where you may not really know that it's even there. Instead, the focus is on the things that your friends are talking about, the activity,
Yep.
your answers, a shop, and then a menu where you can actually find things like Me Photo.
So think about like a celebrity endorsing this.
Yeah.
Are they like, this is where I can connect with my most personal friends?
Beyonce joins, she'll break the whole system.
I mean, will
that's
she?
it. Yeah.
It's not set up for that. It's not set up for celebrities.
So
Absolutely not
I
yet.
think that's interesting though, because it's like every other social media platform it is, you know, like it's about influencers coming in and being like, this is this cool thing I'm doing. And Nintendo's worked with people like Beyonce before, literally.
But there was no, when originally social networks launched, there was no verified. There was no official is really this person, right? Like that's all stuff that grew over time.
Sure, you needed a college email address to use Facebook.
And you could make
right.
the argument that Nintendo could have learned from that and built it in from the get-go, but I think this is such an experiment for them.
Yeah.
From the producer of Metroid comes this very strange communications app that instead of me asking you a question, me asks you a question on behalf of me and then comes back with the answer. I mean, it's a little trippy. And then when people say something, by the way, thank you very much, so many .gm money comments in my feed, and every time somebody makes that comment, gold coins rain from the sky,
right?
Because what you type has a direct effect,
GM
like a graphical thing.
buckaroos.
You know, it's funny.
Yes.
Like, if you say cats, your face will change to a cat.
Yeah.
Like it has
No,
all these kind
keywords
of
have different
keywords. Yeah.
But wait, I mean, like
reactions,
that kind of inherently
cool.
is the thing, though. Like, how would those people get that GM money joke? That's a joke that stemmed from this show.
No, but it's money that triggers it. It's not GM money in this.
Okay.
case.
No,
Yeah,
it's just
money.
that certain keywords will basically initiate certain reactions. So if you say money or you paid for something, coins fall from the
Right.
sky. If
Yeah.
you say the word Nintendo, you hear a ba-ding, you hear that one
Yeah.
coin grab.
But are you only accepting personal friends on this?
No.
No. So I mean,
No, and because of him, I'm not. I wanted to at first, but then I was like, well, I don't accept friends on any other social media platform, so
Right.
I'm going to try it here.
Yeah.
But I have to say, when someone walks in the room that I don't know, like inherently, I kind of look them over and go, I don't really want to talk to you, and just hit stop.
right.
The
You know,
virtual
like, for
room.
me-
In real life, Jose
Yeah.
is a lot nicer.
I am
Yeah,
a lot
yeah.
nicer. It's just to me, I like the reaction of Pears Me just came into this room and said, and you have ridiculous answers to things in real life. So I can only imagine what the Miiverse,
It's terrible.
Miitomo
It's terrible
version
for
of
everyone.
you
First of all,
will be.
my voice is like this,
And
Yeah.
that's what makes it entertaining.
It's very horrible. So if you have me as a friend, I'm
When that's
so
a stranger,
sorry.
I
Mine is
don't-
like, hello, I am Brian. Rap. How are you?
Well, I am talking to you.
See, but do you see that, like, because you know each other, that's the comedy, that's the joke,
Yeah.
that's the thing you get.
But I mean, I got that joke when this game was called
Tomodachi
Life, not
Yeah.
in portrait mode or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, like, and
Yeah.
I love Tomodachi Life. I played it for a couple of weeks and then just stopped because.
Yeah. Well, it's not much of a
everybody did.
game. I think it works better as a mobile thing.
And for this time around, I think they're trying to do a Tomodachi Life meets massively reaching tentacles of the universe. And I was like, there's something cool about this. Like, let me try Tomodachi Life that's on a global scale where when you pull back from that apartment complex, instead of just seeing 6 lights on, there's hundreds. And that's what I was thinking. And I'm, in some ways that's really working. And in other ways, it's not, like the literal fact that I can't actually add any friends right now. But I think it's kind of cool that people were just randomly giving me questions or randomly like tagging me in things and stuff like that. Like it was
scrolling through a response list is, especially when it's a big list, is really funny. Especially when clever people put together really funny answers, and it's people you know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
No,
and I think
really like that.
There's a lot of really good ideas in this thing, and it's really fun. And mission accomplished for them to take the world by storm with this thing, because like everyone I knew was talking about this, and not just people I know who are like, I know my vertical slice of the universe is mostly gamers and stuff like that, and people that work in the games industry. But just I saw random people on Facebook who I'm friends with, like family members who were just like, they were like checking it out. Like the idea of Nintendo making a mobile app for the first time is exciting and it's enticing, and it got a lot of people in there. And I think there's
It's been
a lot
featured too in the App Store, so anyone who goes in the App Store will see it.
First thing they see today.
And they're really that's
for the
cool.
next week. Yeah.
And there's a lot of very very smart hooks to entice you to keep returning outside of just the sort of My Nintendo account stuff that they're doing, which is basically rewarding you for doing a certain amount of actions each day, and you can then exchange those for points, which you can exchange for actual games or 3DS themes, which I thought was all great because these are all things I spend money on anyway. So it's really cool to just get all that stuff. And it has that sort of what's that sticker thing on 3DS?
Oh, you're talking about Batch Center.
Batch Center. It has that attraction.
It's got that
right?
sort of like, I went in today and they're like, well, today is all like cats and bread. That's the different items,
Dressed to impress.
Dressed to impress. and it's got these pachinko style machines where you put in tickets that you earn through regular gameplay or microtransactions if you get there, and which I haven't had to yet. And now you're able to unlock cool stuff and items and accessories and then turn your character into something else. And there's new items in the shop every single day, which, worked on Tomodachi Life for 3DS. But that was a thing you had to pull out of your pocket and check. This is an app on your phone. It's always there. So I think it's really cool. And
it'll send you notifications. So it'll say, today is all about blah, blah. Splatoon.
Day one, I'm wearing a leather jacket and black jeans and aviators. And I'm like, this is awesome. I'm like, this is so cool.
Yeah.
Right off the bat. So
and then I think it's again we called it originally Tinder for shy guys, but it's not really Tinder, right? But it still has that shy guy factor where you can use your me instead of you in photos.
Yeah.
Like you can take a selfie now in front of, let's say you're in Paris, you're in front of the Eiffel Tower, you can take a picture and you can put your me there. And, I know actually a lot of teens do not take selfies. They don't want to be in the shot. They want something different. And I think that app is going to connect with that audience really well as well. So it's clever. Yeah. And you can take some really, really strange pictures because you can pose your me and you can do some strange stuff with them too.
A friend of ours named Eric today sent us a picture of, in the game, it's his me, and he's on the beach and he's wearing swimming trunks and he's completely topless and his nipples are covered by my face and Mike Drucker's face. So this is gonna get weird.
If you check out the hashtag for Miitomo on Twitter, there's some really fun. I saw a hilarious picture on Gaff of that scene of Morpheus's face where Neo is reflected in both eyes, and both of Keanu Reeves' heads were replaced by two different Miitomo expressions, but the same guy. Nailed it, 100%. My feedback for the app right now is that the activity tab, I feel they're wasting a lot of space putting a lot of buttons to basically show you how many responses something has. It feels like it's just way too much. I wish that it was easier to scroll through activity and see. And I feel like even the timeline feels disjointed. I get the purpose of it. It is to tell me that these threads of conversation have had an update recently and you contributed to them, so you might want to read what's in there because it's fun.
Right.
But I think they are wasting too much UI space on that stuff, and they really should.
I agree.
The way some Twitter apps do it is you just see a tweet and you see who said it, and then when you tap on it, you'll see the buttons pop out underneath, and then you'll say, okay, I can retweet, I can reply, I can share or export this, or copy the link and send it to a friend. I think that the fact that they're trying to put all that together up front is wasting some UI space to me.
It's I understand that too, and it's a little hard when you get comment notifications to actually see which comments are new as well, right? I'm always oh, 22 new comments, and you're oh no, it's one new comment, but that little light bulb went on.
Right.
It's going to be something that will be improved over time. If you think about it, this is our first day with an app, and so I think they wanted to make extra sure that you can see all the functionality, and so all the things that we take for granted now in Twitter and Facebook and WhatsApp, whatnot, where we know where all the functions are. They're going to get to this point where they say you know what, everybody knows this is how you share, so we're going to hide this.
Right. These are growing platforms.
And this is a good first effort. And I'm really excited to see how they grow this thing. I think the next logical step is letting you design that room or putting something in that room. And I think that's going to be cool. In Tomodachi Life, one of the things I did love is that there were accessories you can buy.
Yeah.
So you can check in on your me, and he's playing on his or her little 3DS, or two people are over and they're all playing a Wii U and everyone's reacting to something. That's a funny scene to pop in on. And I kind of miss too how you would check in on Tomodachi Life and you'd see someone just rolling around on the floor for no reason. And be well, what is wrong with
that
him?
kind of stuff?
You see that stuff here in the loading screens, but it's not actually implemented into sort of gameplay in any sense, or even just waiting around for anything to happen in the game. And I'm hoping for more of that functionality just in general from Tomodachi Life. I loved when it would just cut to a scene where two characters were falling in love on a beach and then having a breakup, or just that island setting of being I can pop into all these different shops. Right now, there doesn't feel like a centralized hub. It feels like you're in a bedroom and then your character can leave and you can click on his head and he can come back, and he was oh, he was just going to visit Matt.
Yeah, you're all part of one digital hotel room somewhere. Digital hotel somewhere.
But there isn't there isn't like a sense of setting. The same way Tomodachi Life had that island that things would open up. There was the news station. There were all these different shops. There was the grocery store where you could like feed your character thing, the favorite foods and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, or just reactions to whenever you fed someone. And right now the reactions are in the place of, okay, my level went up in style, or I'm becoming popular because of the number of friends I have, or the way they heart the posts that I have. And that stuff's okay. I will say on the microtransaction front, they are also being... I feel like I had to tell both of you how to find it.
Yeah.
Because neither one of you realized where it was. Hidden. And if the only other place you'll see it is when you're at the shop, you'll tap you'll tap the top of the screen and it'll show you the exchange rate. Or if not, and you're trying to buy an item that costs too much, you are basically finding out then, you can buy coins for that. But I think the other challenge too is that clothes are not, the clothing themselves, while looking cool, are not like, okay, take what was the Fallout game again? The one Fallout Shelter, where if you paid the money to get the robot who auto harvests on each floor that you put him on, that's a time saver. That's something that just you can have done, and then you'd be like, okay, I don't have to babysit this thing as closely. Or if you buy the lunchboxes, you had the chance at cards that gave you weapons. Like there was utility to those things. And I feel like in Miitomo, the outfits are cool, but the utility of them doesn't, I'm not quite sure what it is, so I'm not compelled to spend a lot of money.
Well, right now they're not special, right? Like you're looking at a shop and it has a whole bunch of shoes and things, and you're like, none of them are exactly what you wear, even though many of the outfits are clearly designed for Brian Altano.
The hot dog especially.
But at this point, nothing looks special enough for you to go like, I gotta have this. But wait what happens when it's the Link outfit, when it's the Splatoon stuff. Right. Wait what happens when there's geolocation stuff, where if you are visiting Texas, you get the Jools Watsham Texas hat or something, right? Like that kind of he's the most Texan man we've ever met.
I think it's
coming up.
This is still this is the first day, right? And I think that you got what, 10,000 coins today?
Yeah.
What do you think you're gonna get tomorrow?
I don't know.
4,000?
I don't know.
What about the next day? 1,000? Like
eventually
this
is
is
questions.
Sorry,
I can't answer.
I'm getting so scared. I think eventually this will peter off, and you'll sit there and be like, I want this and I want that. The interesting thing about the iOS pricing is that you can't buy anything for less than $1 on that store,
right?
Or 99 cents, really.
Yep.
So no matter what, they're going to have to find a way to justify that. So I think they'll do like they did with Smash Brothers, which is sort of like packs of outfits and stuff like that. Like if you got a Legend of Zelda pack for $1. I don't know if they could justify selling one outfit for $1.
If they put it in Miitomo Drop, like I saw in editorial today, we had different folks just obsessing over trying to get every single like cat-themed item because they thought they were really cool. And I think that's how they're trying to hook people. So when you run out of game tickets in the game itself, then you can start paying coins to try for that stuff. But that ultimately is going to be the thing where people are either going to pump the brakes and I'm not doing this, or I think I can get it one more chance. Let me go for it. And that seems like that's the main hook of where you're going to be trying to spend money.
I mean, I've played a lot of free-to-play games, and the biggest trend in them is always how fast do they hit you with that, hey, pony some money.
Paywall.
Sometimes it's 20 minutes in, sometimes it's an hour in, sometimes it happens 5 hours in, and it's just to remove ads, which I don't really see as being a thing here at all. No. There's nothing like that. Yeah. But it'll be interesting to see, because I think like one of the cool things about badge collection is looking like, they have 20 Metroid badges, and I have 17 of them. And there's
completionist.
Yeah, there's new ones in the shop today. I don't need the whole set, but it's cool just to know I have the whole set. So people trying to collect all the cat ears and stuff like that, if that sticks,
so that's
gonna really connect with people.
So this is where your attention went and not Amiibo, because it's a digital good and you don't have to put it on a shelf somewhere.
Yeah,
is that what happened with Badge Center and Brian Altano? Is that the story?
Yeah, it's like I think that the thing that I like about Badge Center is it gives me something to check in on my 3DS, which I don't really have that.
Interesting.
Like I have that on my phone. There's 100 things to check in on every single day. Yeah. But on my 3DS, I mean, how often do you check in on stuff?
It takes so long.
I agree. It takes so long, and it's too chatty for me.
Yeah.
I flew to Detroit yesterday. I was in Detroit, and so long flight again, and so I always bring my 3DS. Play mostly Fire Emblem.
Good game.
But I did the check-in. I checked in for for any of the for badge center, and then you inevitably run into the wait, no, you got to be connected to the internet, right?
I was gonna say, did you buy in-flight Wi-Fi?
And so like I was like, oh yeah, and that's where anything on your mobile phone just becomes so much more turnkey. You no longer have to think about the checking in. It's something that's second nature, and badge center is slow.
And I hope this says to them, right? Because obviously the next device is in the cooker right now.
Yeah.
But like you need to make it easy to connect to things.
Needs to be fast.
There was nothing worse than going to a hotel with the 3DS saying I want to get on this Wi-Fi and then finding out because of the way the Wi-Fi is structured at that hotel, you couldn't do it. Like it was obsolete technology. You were like, well, I can't do this, and that's a bummer because I wanted to do X, Y, or Z, what have you. Regardless, so it sounds like we're all pretty positive on this thing.
Yeah, we should talk about the one elephant in the room, though. And that this thing is a major battery drain. Yeah. We all have the iPhone 6 Plus, right?
Yeah, everyone at this table.
I don't know what is the battery life on that thing for you guys? Like a full day and a half sometimes?
I mean, depending on usage.
Yeah,
for sure.
I can get like 24 hours out of this thing. I installed this thing. My battery was at like 75%. When I was done tinkering after the first 25 minutes, it had dropped like 25%.
And you had a hot phone.
I had a hot phone.
Sorry.
From today about 8:30. I installed it about 8 or 8:30 a.m. and I was at 100% because I plug in my car. And I was at 20% at around 2 o'clock.
Wow.
But I was accepting it.
You were using it a lot.
Well, it's because the friend accepting screen has your animated guy on it.
Yeah.
And so again, like this might not be the same experience for everyone. If you're accepting a lot of friend requests, seeing the animation of your guy up there, that's going to drain your battery. And so it actually popped up a notice saying like, hey, if you're worried about battery drain, it's like,
it's worth mentioning there is that option to go in there and go on like low battery mode, which I don't really see for a lot of iPhone games. And it's interesting. I was actually playing, there's an Assassin's Creed game they just put out for iPhone that's like about as close as you can get to like Assassin's Creed 2 graphics on your phone, and it's open world-ish. It's got RPG elements. I was playing it for like a half an hour on the plane the other day, and I dropped just a few percent. It's on my phone.
Is there a murder happening next door?
It sounds
Sorry.
like
I thought they were just voices in my head. I'm glad to hear it wasn't me.
Tamagotchi Life, on the other hand, is a total power drain. So it's fascinating.
Last thing, just really smooth animation, like all the features.
Oh, very nicely done.
Is a lot of fun. If you have this thing, if you haven't checked it out, it's available for free on the App Store. Obviously, I recommend you go check it out and at least give it a shot. And if not, and you're more of a hardcore gamer, by all means, like just keep walking. This may not be for you.
It's what I was hoping for, kind of like the level of quality from Nintendo on a mobile phone. Like
polish.
There's this polish to the simplicity with which the characters are presented. But like when you're editing a photo, you can add all these little elements to it. You can make it so your me is sitting behind a table by blocking out part of the character. Like they did think it through. It's not a simple plaster a sticker on a photo and be done. Like you can actually do some pretty clever stuff when you spend time with it.
Awesome. All right. Well, there you have it. So let's then move on to the one news story that we're discussing this week. And this one comes with these are some troubled waters here in terms of we're going to talk a little bit about what happened between Nintendo, product marketing person and Allison Rapp, who has done some work with IGN before in terms of, during E3 and
not for IGN.
Not for IGN, with us.
She hosted Nintendo's streams, like in our live stream. She presented a couple of games. I forget which ones they were.
She's represented some games for that company.
Oh yeah, I know. I hosted like 15 segments with her last year. She was fantastic.
No, and that's what I mean by that. And apparently Allison and Nintendo had a falling out, which is very unfortunate because it comes on the heels of some things that were very. It's really tough to talk about this, right? Because a few weeks ago, if you'll remember, I want to say a month ago now, it may have been that long, on this very show, we talked about the controversy in sort of the fan community, the passionate fan community that was basically localization versus translation, right? Folks who were upset that Fire Emblem was getting some changes made to it. We voiced our stance on it. We were a little one-sided on it as a panel, but we still very much gave our take and how we felt. But apparently after that, basically a sort of a targeted campaign happened, and Allison became sort of the target for it.
And that's because to be clear, she was targeted because of her affiliation with Fire Emblem, she was a spokesperson for the franchise, and she demoed it, but she actually was not on the localization team.
At all.
Right?
And she made that very clear.
But why bother researching that?
But and I think that's the anger of the mob, right? You're angry about something, a perception you have of a product. There were people who wanted certain things in the American version of Fire Emblem that didn't make it in, and so some banded together and went after the first target that they could find. And it looks like Allison was an easy target.
Yeah,
right?
So it ended up resulting in digging up a college thesis, which she did not hide. It was part of her LinkedIn. And also digging up tweets and different information and basically conducting a campaign that lobbied complaints at Nintendo about her. And it grew larger and larger to the point where even outsiders who weren't part of this group but who were seeing the information got involved. Which is unfortunate because then it led to, this all happened, unfortunately, on this person's honeymoon. Like, this person wasn't even at work.
So she wasn't there
when all of this kicked off, but it basically started what seems to be, ended in her unfortunately being terminated yesterday by the company. And
so now the question is, instantly you put two and two together and you think, okay, it's because of all these complaints that have raised issues about her, whether they're real or not, we can't tell from the outside, but they've raised these issues, and the perception is now Nintendo terminated her because of some of those complaints.
Which Nintendo then delivered a statement. We were able to get the story up quickly because we actually were waiting on the statement for a little bit, but the statement reads, quote, Allison Rapp was terminated due to a violation of an internal company policy involving holding a second job in conflict with Nintendo's corporate culture. Though Ms. Rapp's termination follows her being the subject of criticism from certain groups via social media several weeks ago, the two are absolutely not related. Nintendo is a company committed to fostering inclusion and diversity in both our company and the broader video game industry, and we firmly reject the harassment of individuals based on gender, race, or personal beliefs. We wish Ms. Rapp well in her future endeavors. Now, I do want to say, though, the second half of this statement, starting from Nintendo being a company committed to fostering inclusion, I think is a good statement to make, and clearly they made it because they wanted to set the record straight that these two incidents are not related. But I feel like that half of the statement should have been delivered when, unfortunately, she was being targeted by these people.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
And it is very disappointing to me to see that happened because at the end of the day, this is one of your employees, and of course there is the natural defense that by saying nothing and by not firing her, you are still saying something. But I feel like there's still an implied you were slightly complicit by not saying something. And of course, we're talking about a company here. We're talking about a corporation that at the end of the day, they're going to be very careful when they say things, especially one as conservative as Nintendo of America.
Yeah.
Let's not pretend that's not an issue here.
Yes.
I think it's sometimes difficult for organizations to move as fast as the audience and social media out there, right? Like, you always want to verify what's going on before you put out a statement. As someone running a company, right? Like, if somebody was complaining about someone working here, I want to make sure I do the research before I say anything out there. And so sometimes way too much time can pass. It's a pity that so much time has passed that no statement ever went out. Nobody backing her, saying, "Hey, it is not okay to harass her."
Nor will she ever get that statement because now she's on her own.
Yeah, and so that's a real pity, and I hope Nintendo learns from this and tries to be a little bit more reactive and really live up to those values that they state in the statement that
because
they put out.
I don't know what kind of message it sends to say that you can sort of unlawfully attack one of our own over something that she ostensibly had little to no or actually even no involvement in whatsoever, and then just leave her out to dry for 3 months and get attacked by vicious people who are attacking her personal life and her ideals outside of anything even related to this, and ultimately calling for her head. A group of people who were anti-censorship who got someone basically fired.
Yeah.
The irony of being anti-censorship, that you end up silencing somebody.
But to be clear, it does sound like it only put her under the microscope.
Right.
which led to this. I don't think necessarily those two things are exclusive. If that microscope had found nothing, maybe we wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation.
That microscope wouldn't have existed if it wasn't for people aiming at the wrong target.
Yeah.
Like there even needed to be a target.
Look at
there's no universe where you can justify the amount of hatred and venom and vitriol aimed at any individual over what sums up to be creative decisions at a company about mini games.
Yeah.
Like there's no universe where you can justify that.
No.
If that's the thing you can justify, I need you to walk outside and see how beautiful the world can be and find something that makes you happy.
Yeah, look, I mean, we obviously agree on that topic, and there were lots of people who disagreed with that and thought vitriol is absolutely the right answer because we got lots of it when we talked about the topic
course,
here, right? To personal accounts, to YouTube comments, to everything. And it's an unfortunate reality on the internet, and, as much as we can say how great would it be if it stopped and people stated their opinion respectfully, it ain't gonna happen, right? And so as company leaders, we have to make sure that our employees are protected, and we don't always do a great job with that, right? Like you guys are targeted sometimes, and I wish there was more that we can do. I think with Nintendo, we don't know all the facts, right? We don't know what her second job is.
We don't know the second job.
Sounds
we
like
don't know.
Having a second job was not in violation of Nintendo's policy,
which is
right?
weird because for her, she says it wasn't, and they're saying it is. So then it comes down to, well, then what was the job?
But what they're saying
these are
is
things we don't know.
They're saying what her second job was in viation with their image,
Corporate,
right?
yeah, corporate
and so I have no idea what her job was, but if it was something that was related to anything. Nintendo stands on sexual topics, right? If it was anything related to that, right? Like if she was publishing something somewhere, those are the triggers where I think they would immediately act, knowing Nintendo's image. But to be fair, like she is not a goody two shoes presenter, and I think that's what they liked about her too, right? Like
that's why she was one of my favorite people I've ever worked with. I mean, that's why she is so fantastic, because she defined what I felt to be a great step for Nintendo and a great new voice for Nintendo. Somebody that wasn't just completely, straightforward, clean-cut vanilla.
Yeah.
Somebody that was like, I'm slightly dangerous. I have some cool new ideas, and I'm open and honest, and I'm hilarious. And she was great.
And so maybe that's where Nintendo's corporate culture is not that clear yet, right?
Yeah,
like they haven't figured out who they want to be. They want to be the internet that broadcasts to everybody over YouTube and speaks the same language, but at the same time, they also want to be the old Nintendo, right?
Yeah. But to me, and I'm just going to, possibly end here unless you guys have more to say, but I feel like there are errors on both sides of this, because I feel like someone with that sort of personality may not be the best fit for a very conservative company. I mean, at the end of the day, that's possibly part of the issue here. I think Nintendo handled it poorly by not having that statement, but I think on her side, that is one of the challenges that was very clear, and it seems clearer to her in what she's saying now. But it's just still unfortunate, because I think that something really good could have come from these two kind of personalities coming together for a longer term.
Sure.
Regardless, we definitely send out best wishes to Allison. We hope that she finds, sort of a stable sort of job and something to sort of work with. And we wish you the best. Like, honestly.
Yeah, you're awesome, Allie. You are fantastic. One of my favorite people I've ever worked with. And you will land on your feet somewhere where people will let you be who you are. And that's going to be great.
Cool. All right. Well, we're going to end here. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, Jools Watsham is here to talk about Renegade Kidd, Mutant Mudds Super Challenge, and so much more. So don't go anywhere.
Listen.
Welcome back. Jose Otero here with Brian Altano and Per Schneider, and we are joined by a very special guest, Jools Watsham. What's up, man?
Hello. How's it going, guys?
Jools, if you're unfamiliar with him, is basically the co-founder of an independent developer, Renegade Kidd. Is that correct, or are you just the founder?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay.
And how many kids are there?
Officially, just two, I guess.
All right. There you go.
My business partner is Greg Hargrove, longtime friend, and we're the co-founders of Renegade Kidd.
And cool. if you're watching the video version of NVC, we're staring to the bottom down there and seeing Jools there, but he's also floating behind us. So.
Yes, absolutely. So,
see it all.
Renegade Kidd recently put out Mutant Mudds Super Challenge, which you can get on 3DS or Wii U. It's available now, cross-buy supported. So if you buy it on one platform, Jools, you're getting it on both. Is that correct?
That's right, yeah.
You guys also did some really special promotions with this thing. Can you talk a little bit about sort of working this out with Nintendo?
Yeah, we did a bunch. Yeah, we did the cross-buy, which is not the first, but one of the first, and it's not a very common thing on the Nintendo platforms. We did a loyalty discount and an Indies at Home thing. And the reason I mention them both at the same time is they kind of offer the same discount, where, like, if you remember E3 last year, where there was a demo you could download, which is pretty neat. I don't know if Nintendo are going to do it again this year, but it was really cool they did this last year, where there was like 9 demos you could download on the Wii U eShop. And there were also games that were at E3. So kind of like at home, you could kind of...
Yeah, Nindies at home. That was it.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone at E3. Anyway, so if you downloaded that demo, or if you bought the original Mudds, you get a 15% loyalty discount, which is good until April 16th. And then, in addition to that, you get the cross-buy as well. So it's, we're just, I don't know, as that market's kind of coming to the end of its era, we felt like it's a good idea to put some incentives out there to try and not only entice people, but also try and get above the noise of Nintendo's first-party stuff, just somehow give us some kind of reason to be seen.
And was that tough to push through? I mean, the platform, Nintendo's shop is not set up for cross-buy the way, the Vita and the PlayStation are linked, for example. Like, how does it take convincing, or is that something that's easily done?
No, it was easy. We just asked them, and they said, yeah, sure, fill out this paperwork. And that was it. And we also did, Europe and North America at the same time, which was the first time we had done that. So, just a bunch more paperwork, I guess, to do. But no, it wasn't that hard. So no, it's anyone can do it. There's no, there's not really any barriers you have to work through to get that set up.
So it's unfortunate we didn't have you on the show when Brian and I were first playing Mutant Mudds, because we had some choice words for you back then.
I missed that. Oh man.
No, that game was really. I played the original, finished it, did everything there was to do, and I played it on 3DS.
I think
originally.
I played it on everything.
Yeah,
I think I even played it on Vita and pretty much everywhere it went.
Nice. You went back. You're like a glutton for punishment.
Yes.
Then, yeah.
Did you even check it out on the iPhone? It's even on there as well.
I did. Yeah.
No, I didn't actually. I was like, I was so conditioned with playing it with the D-pad. And
understandable, definitely.
Although I actually do play a decent amount of platforming games on iOS, a lot of them feel kind of slower paced, and I was like, with this one, this is so Twitch based that I need something precise for this.
That's why I downloaded it on iPhone. I wanted to see how you pulled off the controls without the D-pad, because I felt, I mean, your game, for those who haven't played it, it's difficult, right?
Yeah.
They're very, very close jumps you have to make to avoid death by spike, for example.
Yeah.
And the D-pad is beautiful for that, and it works well on the 3DS, but it's still very demanding when it comes to timing. And so I was really curious to hear from you. How did you approach even bringing it to a device that doesn't have buttons and a D-pad?
Yeah, I mean, we were definitely hesitant. Our first, for us, we had to prove it to ourselves that it was worth it. I mean, there's 40 levels in there, well, 80 with all the things we added later, and we're like, well, if we can't get the core player package down, it's going to be 80 levels of suck. It's just like, it's pointless. It doesn't matter. So that was the first thing we did. Matthew, who's the programmer on all of our 2D stuff, and really a designer in his own right, he's very hardcore platformer D-pad fan. So he was like, yeah, we have to get this right, or we're just not doing it. And I'm like, yep, I totally agree. So I just played a bunch of games and trying to get a feel for which ones are doing it right, which ones are doing it wrong, and what can we take from that. And some of them are doing a pretty good job, and I think we found, just trying to look at how people naturally move their thumbs around on the screen and what might work. And we just kind of played around with a few different setups, and we got one that I feel works pretty good. I mean, it's never going to feel as good as the 3DS or any D-pad. It's just a fact. It's just no way, because you don't have that physical feedback where you don't have to look down. You have to look down sometimes to go, is my thumb in the right place? Yes, it is. Okay, cool. But I think we pulled it off pretty good. I mean, you tell me if you've checked it out. I think it worked out pretty good.
It worked well. Did you have to relax some of the difficulty, like some of the challenges?
No,
did you have to change
No, it's
them?
the exact same game.
One for one.
We didn't make any changes.
Wow, that's amazing.
And I've played through the whole thing, so just to make sure, if it was going to be horrible, I lived through that horribleness myself. And I enjoyed it. It's not as good as the 3DS version, for sure. But I played through the whole game. I didn't destroy my phone at the end of it. I was like, yeah, this feels pretty good. For that market, I think it's one of the best 2D platforms you can get. Of course, I'm biased. I would say that, but I really believe that.
So then tell me what made you want to go back for Super Challenge, right? Like you've done Mutant Mudds, and I feel like it's also the game, and pardon me if I'm wrong, but you've been able to get it on a lot of platforms. I feel like you got it onto PC, you were able to get it onto the PlayStation Store as well. So what was the approach for Super Challenge for you?
We'd been kicking around the idea for Mudds 2 for a while, and that is a much larger scope concept. So Super Challenge is not that. Super Challenge isn't a sequel. It's a continuation of the first game. And for us, because of the market and how things are going, and obviously the NX is on the horizon, and just a sense of timing, we're like, well, Mudds 2 wouldn't fit in that time slot. So we're like, well, let's do something else with Mudds, because we love Mudds. Let's do some more with that. And we're big fans of like the Lost Levels. We liked that being the sequel to Mario Brothers, even though in Nintendo of America weren't. They didn't support the idea of that being the sequel to Mario Brothers, even though Japan did.
Yeah,
I like that idea.
That's a tough game.
Yeah,
it is a tough game, but I like the concept of if you play the first game and you love it, you just want more. You don't want necessarily have it be reinvented with this added and that changed and this taken away. You're like, I just want that, but more, please. That'd be great. And that's not done very often. And I like that with Lost Levels. And I'm like, that'd be really cool if we could do that. So that was the initial kind of concept. And then over time, we're like, we just kept on adding to it. We made all the level themes completely different. We added 5 bosses. And different gameplay things in the levels themselves with the hidden pathways, the collectible, CDs, the secret characters. We just kept on adding more and more to make it appealing. So it's kind of somewhere in between a sequel and a mission pack. It's definitely more than a mission pack, but it's not quite a sequel. So it's somewhere in the middle of there. So it was fun, really fun to kind of come to it in that way. Like I approached it as if the player had just finished the first game and now they're jumping right into this game. So I'm not going to hold their hand in any way. I'm not even going to tell them how to play the first game. If you don't know how to play it, boom, let's go. And that was nice.
I did get some very serious sort of like Legend of Zelda Second Quest type of vibes from it. Of sort of being like, well, a lot of this is familiar, but it's also really difficult, and I don't know if I'm as good as I was the first time around, but I want to dig in more.
Right.
I was very interested in that, and actually, like, really just from a gameplay perspective, really enjoyed the way that Mutant Mudds is like a platforming game that's really less. It's less about landing the jump as much as it is about making the jump itself. Yeah. Like you have that kind of throttle that you're holding. That changes the timing incredibly, and it took me a little while to get used to, but I think once it clicks with people, they really understand what it's going for. It's very smart in that regard.
Yeah, the other element I really liked when I first played it on the 3DS was was the 3D feature was really well done. You actually jump into the back of a level and you get the distance. Remember that? Like when we all still had our 3D slider turned up, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Did it before Kirby. I mean, Mutant Mudds did it before Kirby Triple Deluxe tried that same idea.
Yep.
Yeah.
I remember when we did it. Obviously it's stolen from Wario Land from the Virtual Boy. But that was that was all red and great game, loved it. But we liked that idea. The 3DS was coming along. We're like, great, let's take that idea and see what we can do with it. We added an extra dimension into the foreground, and obviously it's full color, so that's a bit more pleasing on the eyes. And I remember the first time we had it just working in the game. We jumped in the background, and I was like, oh man, that's sweet, because the 3D was so solid. I mean, it's even more solid now in the new 3DS, but even then it was pretty good if you found the sweet spot. And it was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. Jumping into the background, I was like, I just kept on doing it. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. And I think 2D games done in 3D have almost a more profound effect on you, because you can really judge, I'm here, now I'm there. There's not much granularity. There's no gradient. It's like black and white. I'm here or I'm there. And you get that great sense of those 3 shifts, whereas like 3D Land, which I love, Mario 3D Land's an excellent game. After a while, the 3D effect almost wears off. Like you don't even realize it's there anymore, because it's so gradiated and granulated. You kind of get used to it, and it just looks like reality in a way. So your brain kind of just almost switches off. Whereas 2D, it's just very more in your face, abrupt, which is kind of fun.
Now, you mentioned Wario for Virtual Boy. I could have sworn I saw you made a mock-up of what that game would look like in full color.
Yeah,
that was you, right?
Yeah,
what
to try and
happened
get
with that? Was
Nintendo interested in that? It didn't work.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, because that's like that Wario game for Virtual Boy is widely regarded as the best game in that system.
It's so good.
And Nintendo's never really done anything to. It's totally forgotten. They've never done anything for all the amount of times they've re-released almost every Mario game. That's the one that's just kind of left behind. That and Mario Clash were the two big first-party games.
Any game on that platform isn't going to see the light of day for a while, I feel.
So did you pitch your mock-up to Nintendo?
I did, actually, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, because it's like, we were like, hey, we could provide the service of bringing all of the Virtual Boy stuff over to the 3DS if you want.
Wow.
You know, because once we do one, we could do all of them.
Right.
Okay.
And
even Waterworld?
I guess NCL are just not, I don't know, it's almost, this is my opinion. It almost seems like it's an embarrassment. They're sweeping under the rug and they're moving on. That didn't happen. You know, let's ignore that and move forward. They haven't said that to me, but that's kind of the sense I get. Like they just don't want to touch it.
It's odd though because I feel like they've oddly embraced the Virtual Boy in weird times. Like there were some jokes in Tamagotchi Life about it. I think there's one in Smash Brothers. Like it's shown up in some of their more.
Well, even Reggie was like playing. Remember he was training for something and he was even playing the Virtual Boy.
That's exactly it. Like I feel like it showed up in some of their more like archival museum throwback stuff that they sneak into games.
Yeah. But it's I think they have to still pass that threshold where like the Power Glove, it becomes funny and cool to talk about it, right? Like I would love to see them go back to that. But yeah, obviously it didn't sound like they were into that. But let's not forget, Game & Watch they ignored for a very, very long time. Right. And now you have, a character in Smash Brothers. You had a special re-release for
they had collections
Club Nintendo.
They put out a couple of times. Either I think
Game Boy
on
Color.
Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance. I think I know on DS it was also like a Club Nintendo reward. There was a version you can get.
But
the
think
gold,
of the
gold box.
Think of the original monochrome Game Boy, right? And like it could have easily made the jump to the old Game Boy devices, and they never went to that. So
well, they did do with like Virtual Console stuff. You can hold the buttons down and start it off with the Game Boy border around it, the original Game Boy. So, Jools, did you take this pitch to them? They said no. Did you say at all like, well, I mean, while we're here, I could also do a Wario game for you guys from the ground up?
They didn't officially say no.
Okay.
I just didn't hear from them again.
Right.
Oh, got it. That's unfortunate.
So,
Because
technically, I guess it could still happen.
I feel like you making a Wario game from the ground up is like kind of a perfect fit.
Like you were saying, Brian, like Wario Land, hands down, is the best game on the Virtual Boy. I mean, I don't think anyone. Well, maybe someone will argue with that, but generally, I think people were like, "Yeah, that was the game."
Yeah.
And even within the Wario history, it's a great game. It's even compared because Wario is their quirky game, right? So some of them are like, yeah, that was great that you tried that, but yeah, it didn't really work. There's a lot of those Wario games. You're like, yeah, it's a bit weird. But there's games like Shake It. I think it was on the Wii, which is pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
There's the GBA one, Wario Land 4 or whatever it was, 3 maybe. The Game Boy Color ones are pretty good, and the Virtual Boy one's right up there with them. It's a great journey going through that game, and the way they use the 3D was very clever, very smart. We totally leveraged that. We're like, that was really smart. Let's borrow that idea. It's very clever.
Nice.
It's a great game in its own right. I'd love to see either just the Virtual Boy Red version or a fully colored version on the 3DS would be awesome. Would be huge.
Make it happen.
So then, speaking of journeys, I'd love to hear a little bit more about you. More specifically, just like what made you want to get into making games?
I guess when I look back, I kind of always did. When I was a kid, the first computer we got was one my dad brought home as a Spectrum 48K rubber keyboard. At the time it was awesome, cutting edge stuff,
Yep.
But now it literally has 48K of memory, which is, you can't even get a JPEG in that. I mean, that's just silly. But it was awesome. That's what we brought home. Eventually I got my own version of that, the Spectrum Plus, that had the hard keyboards and stuff. And I just, we had the magazines where you type in the program and, from the magazine, and then obviously it wouldn't run.
Wrong,
you have to fix it and debug it and actually get it to run properly and all that fun stuff. And so that's kind of where it began. So I guess I have to blame my dad for that. And I've always loved games, but I also found I wasn't satisfied with just playing the games. I'd always try and get my hands on a game making package. Like on the Commodore 64 and the Amiga and the ST, there was a program called Shoot 'em Up Construction Kit, or SEOC. made by the Sensible Software guys who did Sensible Soccer and Cannon Fodder and all that kind of great stuff. It was horrible, but it was awesome. I mean, for me, I could make my own sprites, and you can set the scroll speed and do your little, spaceship and shoot things, or make him a cowboy shooting guys, or whatever. You can make him whatever. I love that. So I was always making games, and I didn't even realize it. I was just so interested in getting in there. But the weird thing is, I never really allowed myself to believe I could really ever make games and get paid to do it. They come from some magic factory somewhere by very smart people. That won't be me. I won't be doing that. I'll be doing something else instead. Thankfully I did get into it through the journalist route. Funnily enough,
wow.
I applied for. I'll do the short version of this story, but I basically was in London and in Farringdon, and EMAP Images, the building is there. I was going to college there at the time, and I came across it, and I was like, wow, whoa, that's where The One is made, and that was a magazine that I would read, an Amiga magazine. I actually had it on me at the time, and it was a nice junction for me where I was like, do I go in and ask for a job, or do I just walk by going, oh, that was cool? Cut a long story short, I went in, asked for a job, and eventually got it. I was like 17 at the time, and I was basically cheap and enthusiastic. That's why I got the job. My writing skills were terrible. But they're like, whatever. If we can get someone to, because at the time the screenshots, they would take photos of the TV screen in a dark room, go and get them processed, slap them to the thingamajig, to the printers, and get them in there. So my first job was organizing that. They had hundreds of these negatives, not organized at all. That was my job, is to organize these negatives into folders. So they actually said, oh, there's that game. Great, we've got the screenshots here. And so that's kind of how I started.
Welcome to the video game industry.
Yeah, exactly.
But how do you
now go and organize this stuff?
Yeah.
Thanks.
But how do you take the step from that to coding? You code too, right?
I don't code.
You
No,
don't
I never,
code. Okay, so
I attempted to learn it once, and I was like, whoa, no way.
But you handle design then.
I do design, art, and everything else, basically. Everything but code, essentially. I do music, obviously PR, business, blah. Pretty much everything but code, I
That's
guess.
unusual, though, right? Because I think a lot of indie devs start with coding and then learn more about design. Like, it's unusual to hear from someone who said, I'm going to be a designer, and can actually kind of will that career path into existence.
I actually started as an artist because when I started, game designers didn't exist. That wasn't a role that had been defined at that time. It didn't exist in the consciousness. There were artists and there were programmers, and design was just something that happened. So I would do pixel art, and I applied for a job and made some contacts while I was working at the magazine. And I got my first job as a pixel artist on SNES, Genesis kind of games. And I remember one of the first projects I worked on was me and a programmer making a Contra ripoff for the Super Nintendo. It was like two guys trying to rip off Contra 3, which was an incredible, exceptional game, trying to rip that off and make a project. And the result of that was a game called Time Slip, which isn't awful, but it's not great either.
So it shipped.
Right.
Okay. So
Yeah.
wait, what is, just out of curiosity, do you have a maybe top 3, or if not just one, your favorite Super Nintendo game?
It'd have to be Super Mario World.
Yeah?
It'd have to be, yeah. Such a special. I remember when I first saw that. It was a Japanese import, and at the time I was into the Amiga and the ST and stuff like that. And when I saw that, I was like, "What is that?" I mean, it looks and sounds and feels alien, but awesome to me. I'd never seen, heard, or played anything like that. I was like, "What is this?" It was really amazing. So yeah, that has to be my favorite. It's such a great game.
Yeah. It's really funny if you when you wind back the clock and you look at the games that we played when we were kids in Europe, from Commodore 64 to Amiga and Atari ST.
Yeah.
The music sounded completely different, right?
Oh,
it
yeah,
was that
totally.
kind of that Euro pop synth music, and then Super Mario World just sounded completely different, sound-wise and composition-wise.
But man, that Commodore could put out some sound.
Oh my
Some
gosh,
of
yeah.
the best stuff I've
Sid
ever
was
heard.
great, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was very, very good. Okay,
Yeah.
Jules, so then what made you go independent, out of curiosity?
So I was working at Acclaim for a long time, so that would do it to you. But that was a great place. I got to meet some really good people, made some great friends, and learn what to do and what not to do there, and it was a good time. But they eventually closed their doors in 2004. So I worked at a few different places, and then eventually actually had a pretty good job. Both Greg and I worked at the same place, but then we decided, look, we just need to stop working for other people and just make our own stuff. That's what I really wanted to do. So we just decided to leave, a pretty good paying, safe job, go, wow, all right, let's just try and do this independent thing and see what happens. And that was, I guess we decided that almost 10 years ago. It was 2006 is kind of technically when we decided to do that. And then our first game, we released Dementium in 2007, Halloween 2007.
And then what games did you work on at Acclaim? What were the biggest projects you worked on?
Iggy's Wrecking Balls was actually that's probably when I came to IGN to hang out with you, right?
I think that's when we met, because first of all we thought you guys were making it up and that wasn't a real game.
Right, exactly. So that's the one that's closest to me, because it was my first project where I was project manager, and at the time that meant someone who's a producer and a designer under one role, because Acclaim didn't want to pay two people to do that job.
Oh wow.
So that was my job on that game. And Greg, actually, my business partner now, was the lead artist on that project. So we were working together at that time. And so that was a fun project, but not really a great game, but it was a fun project to do. But I guess one of the biggest ones is probably Turok 2. I did some of the multiplayer maps for that. Okay. Helped with some NBA Jam games back in the 2D times. Yep. Aero the Acrobat, again, another 2D stuff.
I like
and Zero
that
the
game.
Kamikaze Squirrel. I was a lead artist on that. So games like that.
The Zero and Aero are better games than people remember them as.
Yeah, I think a lot of people stored them with the entire wave of character mascot games that came out in the 90s.
Like Bubsy.
Yeah, definitely way better than Bubsy. Bubsy is not a good game.
Oh my gosh.
Someone needs to bring back Croc. No.
Do they?
No.
Do they?
Not really. Okay, so then you put out Dementium, you put out Moon, but curiously enough, you chose the Nintendo DS as the platform. So what sort of made you guys do that? Just out of curiosity, because these were much more mature titles, I think, than what you expected on a Nintendo platform.
Yeah, there were like 5 first-person DS games, and you guys made 2 of them.
3 of them.
Three of them. Yeah.
There we go.
I guess it just made sense in some weird way at the time. I was a huge fan of the DS. For me, I've always loved portables. I loved the Game Boy Color, GBA. When the GBA SP came out, I was like, that's perfection. It has the whole laptop design going on, and wow, and it has the bright screen, the second version of those SPs. So I still have that, love that thing. And then the DS came out, which was kind of a brick, but it was awesome, but it was like pretty ugly. I'm like, still like the SP, but the DS is pretty cool. And then the DS Lite finally came out. All right, now we're talking.
Now we're talking.
Now we've got some design going on. So I just love, like I said, I just love them. So, we'd had some experience with the N64 with Turok and games like that, and the hardware capabilities are similar. N64 and DS, different hardware completely, but the capabilities are similar. So like, you know what? It would be cool. Like we want to kind of make a splash with our first game. We called Renegade Kidd. We have a skull and crossbones in our logo. So let's do something with a bit more balls to it. So we're like, great. We love survival horror. We love Silent Hill. We love Resident Evil. We know we can do something fairly decent in that genre as an FPS on the DS. No one else is doing it. So it'll either be a spectacular failure or maybe it'll do pretty good. So at least we'll get noticed anyway, at very least. So that was really the idea. And it paid off. It worked. We found a publisher in Gamecock. Despite their silly name, awesome people. They're still rocking it now as Devolver Digital. Great guys, good friends. They're in Austin, same as us. Okay. And they really contributed, I think, to the attitude of that game in their marketing and so on. So it was a really amazing, fortunate way to, I think, make our start in the industry as an independent developer.
Interesting. Yeah, I always thought you guys looked at the platform and you thought, nobody's going to try to make first-person shooters. Nobody's making mature games, so our games will stand out on that platform. But did you also look at the platform and thought, it's going to be tough to make a 3D game that's going to run smoothly and control well, because you did not have, a second stick to look around in the environment. Right.
Well, Metroid Hunters, the demo, had already been released. So that proved the gameplay concept to us. Like, it can work. If this feels pretty good, it's going to be more niche. Not everyone's going to like it. But if Nintendo's doing it, that's good enough for us, So that helped. And actually we spoke with a couple of people as far as programming, as far as the engine and how we're going to create this thing. And the first team I spoke to had a different way of creating it. It was a bit more kind of Doom-like, where it was kind of more generated rather than actual, models and meshes kind of living in the scene. But then the guy we ended up going with, who we're still working with today, Bob Ives, single-handedly created the engine, the plugins for Macs, all of the tools. One guy did all of the programming for Dementium. Incredible. So testament to him. And the game ran at 60 frames a second, had the flashlight effects. I mean, it was, at the time, it was like, wow, really, really incredible. And actually, one of the nice things about the DS is it has a cap of 2,000 polygons. So it doesn't really matter what you do. It will display those 2,000 polygons. You can't, it's kind of nice in that way. Whereas floating point stuff like 3DS and other machines like that, it's a bit more complicated than that. There's 1,000 factors that go into how many polygons you can display, whereas the DS was like, boom, here you go, here's your 2,000, have fun. And that was kind of nice. It's kind of a thing that we could really leverage and go, great, we know our budget, let's go.
So you don't have to optimize a lot and like reduce geometry in order to avoid pop-up. Like you know exactly what you're working with. From the
so we just budgeted this many for an enemy, this many for a level, and we can just and we just stuck to that. And funnily enough, actually, it ended up being a lot more powerful than we thought, and we actually added a lot more polys and textures for Dementium 2, because we were being way more conservative than we needed to be on Dementium 1.
Wow, that's really interesting.
So how did Crash Landed happen? For those at home, Crash Landed is basically if you could explain for them.
It's a 3D platformer. I mean, it was we were chatting with Activision. There was a console team that were developing Crash Landed, like the next gen version, which I think at the time was probably his PS2-ish era. And they're like, hey, we pitched in for the DS version. So we spent a lot of time, well, not a lot of time, actually, that's not fair, a few weeks, but we put a lot of effort into those few weeks in creating the character, creating the world, the camera, and all of the finesse to get in there. So I thought it turned out great. But
it looked really good. I've seen video of it, and I've always gone like, man, that looks like it could have worked out really well, but...
Yeah. Well, in the end, I think that Activision ended up going with a different team, and that team also had experience with like racing game or another genre. So they had bigger plans for that brand. So they wanted to have a team that could handle all of those. So I think that was a big part of their decision making. But obviously, the whole project was canned anyway, and never saw the light of day. So I think we've dodged a lot of bullets over the years. There's a lot of things we could have potentially got, but it fell through for whatever reason, and we ended up doing our own thing later. And that project that we didn't get ended up failing, or didn't even see the light of day. So, and that's always difficult for us who rely on the money from a publisher to make the game. If it suddenly stops, we're like, well, we still have next month to pay everyone, so what are we going to do? So we dodged a few bullets, I think, with that, and that's one of them we dodged.
And is the market for downloadable DS games, 3DS games, is the market big enough? I mean, obviously you've tried this now for a few years. Do you see it growing? Are more Nintendo fans now downloading games and trying out some of these indie titles as well?
I think it's got to a decent level. I don't know if it's growing anymore or if it's staying the same or maybe even slightly declining. It's certainly not. I don't think it's going to get any bigger at this point. I think it's met its max based on our own sales data anyway, which may or may not be a true reflection of it, because our games are very niche anyway. So there is that. But it's not a huge market, but it's an okay market because we're pretty tiny, we're pretty small, so it does pretty good for us. But obviously, based on the fact that we are releasing our games on other platforms, a lot of the reason for that is because we need to make more money to continue. Sure. So we are finding that we are having to diversify a little bit as far as the number of platforms we release our stuff on.
And what's that experience been like for you, just in terms of diversifying? Like, is that a difficult thing to pull off, or do you feel comfortable now after having done it for a little bit?
We've gone through a few growing pains, but now it's a little bit easier. I mean, or more manageable, I should say. We have our engine set up where it can handle that pretty well now, which is good. So it's becoming more and more of a necessity to put that in our plan from the beginning. But yeah, it's getting easier, which is good.
Yeah. I guess I also want to bring up, but I mean, I should have brought this earlier in full disclosure. You and Brian got to work together on a little game that you put out in 2014, which was Zeo Drifter.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you guys can just talk a little bit about that. First of all, Zeo Drifter, more of a Metroid-like in some ways.
Yeah,
but still very much, an action platformer, and a pretty good one.
It's actually part of the reason, and this is probably something we're going to maybe bring up at some point anyway, but that Treasure kind of ties into this a little bit. We announced Treasure many, many years ago, and it still isn't out yet. And a lot of that is based on the scope of that game and in what time slot does that fit in versus, when do we need to release it and actually make money to earn money to make games and so on. That whole cycle, that lovely cycle that we're in. So Zeo Drifter came from that, where we're like, we need to get something out at this time. We don't want to shrink Treasure just to get it out, so let's do a smaller game. So Zeo Drifter was born, which is a mini Metroid game, basically. It's funny. I mean, we were, making the game, and I think almost casually. I mean, I'd like to hear your recollection of it, Brian. But also, almost casually on Twitter, we're like, "Hey, we're doing this game," and Brian's like, "Hey, I got a tune for that." I'm like, "Oh, let's check it out." "Oh, that's awesome. We'll put it in. Cool, done. All right. We're done. Really. It was awesome.
You either put out screenshots or a gameplay video, and I'm like, this is totally matching the aesthetic of this song I'm working on right now, which was like this weird sort of David Bowie Labyrinth inspired hybrid cover thing that was like it was like Wu-Tang David Bowie, and I'm like, I can do something with this. And I saw your screenshots and I'm like, oh, we should match up on this. And I think I threw the song at you guys and you're like, yeah, we'll see what we can do. And then you got back to me a little while later and you're like, yeah, we're actually going to put it in the game. And then I played through the whole game and I'm like, the music's awesome in this game. Where's my song? Where's my song? Where's my song? And then I finished the game and my song started playing. And it was really cool because I was both excited that I finished the game, because I get excited anytime I finish any game, but also that I was like, hey, this is the ending of the game and they're playing my song. So it was this weird sort of culmination of all the things that I've...
These emotions.
Yeah, a lot of emotions of me being I grew up on platforming games and shooters, and I grew up playing Metroid and Metroidvania style games. And I've always been into music, and I was like, all this kind of came together at the same time right here. And then my name popped up in the credits, and I was like, oh my God. It was cool.
It works so well as well, because it was tough, right? Because your music is more like real music, more synth, like real instruments, not chiptune really at all. Whereas the game is chiptune.
Right. So
we love this tune. How do we use this? Because we want to use it. And it's amazing. We thought, well, let's put it in the ending, the very end of it, when there's that feeling of accomplishment where I'm done and now I'm drifting off back into space to do more fun stuff. And it works so well because it ends in, has that music going on where you beat it and do its thing. You jet off and then boom, your music kicks in. It's just it feels good, right? You're like, oh, that's right. It just feels really good. The way it kind of comes in and you just kind of, it's almost like a Milky Way, a little drift away in velvety space goodness. It feels really good when the music kicks in. It works perfectly.
Yeah, it was a fun thing to work on. I definitely want to do more stuff like that in the future. Cool. So
yeah,
very nice.
Yeah, that was nice the way it came together as well. It was very casual. Like, hey, we got this thing.
But had you guys met before, or
no? I don't think we'd met yet. Had we met before?
We hadn't prior to that.
I think we met at PAX afterwards.
Yeah, we met after that. Was it PAX or E3? We met after that.
Yeah. They all melt together.
They do.
Yes, right. Yes.
Yeah, that was cool.
Awesome.
All right, Jools. So before I let you go, I have to ask, what is going on with Treasure Knots?
Well, we're working on it, which is good. I have it behind me, and that's no mistake. Okay. We like I said, we've kind of pushed it. We've had to put it on hold a number of times, just to get other projects done, to get it out in a nice, timely manner. But we've now partnered up with Nighthawk, which is a fairly new publisher, but full of guys that have been around forever from Majesco, and to work together and finishing up, which is great. We're working on it right now. So now that Super Challenge is done, which is awesome, we are now focused on Treasure Knots, which is very exciting. We're finally back on that. Yeah.
And of course, you have a giant booth at E3 where you're going to demo this game.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Are you coming to E3? Are you going to bring some stuff?
I don't think I will be able to, unfortunately.
Everybody's going
the
to
game
E3.
might be, but I don't think I'll be there, unfortunately. I think I'm actually going to go to Europe at that time. I'm going to Europe at some time in June. Is E3 in June?
It is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, still.
I think I'll be on the other side of the ocean at that time, unfortunately.
Vacation?
Yes, thankfully.
All right. Well deserved then.
Yeah.
Jools, thank you so much for joining us. For folks listening, you can pick up Mutant Mudds Super Challenge on the eShop right now. Make sure you check it out. Again, it's available with Cross-Buy. Jools, how else can people follow you on the internet?
I'm on Twitter. Jools Watsham is my Twitter name. I do stuff there. I've got a YouTube channel which you can also connect through my Twitter account. So, but that's the main thing on Twitter with random waffles.
Great.
All right, and thank you for listening to the Nintendo Voice Chat audience. We are a weekly show on IGN. You can find Brian Altano at
Agent Bizzle.
You can find Per Schneider at
Pair IGN.
And you can find myself, Jose_Otero. Thank you so much for listening, and we will be back next week with more Nintendo Voice Chat.
Later.